Tonight's speaker is one of the founders of Cambridge-based BAFTA-nominated Ninja Theory. Originally founded as Just Add Monsters in March 2000, the studio's first release was Kung Fu Chaos on the Xbox. But it was with 2007's Heavenly Sword that the developer started enlisting the help of leading lights across the movie and music industries, including Andy Serkis, Nitin Sawhney and Weta Digital. So, to talk about this collaborative process, please welcome to the stage the creative director of Ninja Theory, Tameem Antoniades.
One of the books that I read when I was researching for Heavenly Sword was Journey to the West, 400-year-old novel. But the legend of Monkey, the Monkey King, is actually much, much older. It's, the book's considered one of the 4 great Chinese classics. It's almost a quasi-religious text. And so when we adapted it, we wanted to, we felt like we could just adapt it in a different way. It didn't have to be a literal translation. We'd already done a big Eastern epic game with Heavenly Sword, and we wanted to do something different. So it was as simple as asking my art director, Alex, what would you like to work on next in terms of style? And he said sci-fi. So we went, fine. Let's replace the magic with technology, replace the demons with robots, and see what we come up with. It had to be highly cinematic with believable characters, because you've got to believe that this girl you're protecting is real. And the action, we wanted to be, man versus machine, with lots of robots of all kinds of shapes and sizes, and to have quite a big. The kind of like the heart of the game is the interaction between Monkey and Trip, not just in terms of drama, but in terms of gameplay as well. We had a really hard time trying to source a motion capture studio anywhere that could do the level of performance that we needed. Oh yeah, we hired this PhD guru, and we worked with him on actually doing this mathematical formula for translating dots on an actor's face into a CG character. And Andy, of course, is like, he's the king of performance capture. He worked with us on Heavenly Sword, on Enslaved. He co-directed the shoot with me. We did a 4-week shoot out in Los Angeles at House of Moves, and it was like shooting a movie. So, I mean, performance capture is just amazing when it works. It's capturing voice, body, face of multiple actors on set, acting naturally against each other, and it's, Andy's often said it's the purest form of acting, because there's no sets, no costumes, no prosthetics. And you've got 140 cameras around you, so there's nowhere to hide. Like, you've just got to get out there and perform, and it's like black box theatre.
Trip! No! Oh, come on. Trip, can you hear me? Trip! Monkey! She stopped breathing!
So very early on, right at the beginning, we got Nitin Sawhney on board. Like, he's done so many films. He's a polymath. He's been trained in classical Indian music. He was quite big on the drum and bass scene. He was a flamenco guitar expert, an Indian tabla player. So it was important for us to kind of avoid the usual cliches that lots of games that are trying to be blockbusters fall into, which is to go for the big John Williams soundtrack. Each of the musical themes is based around the characters and their journey throughout the game. And Nitin's that's what he brings from basically the movie side of things. He brings that kind of sensibility and experience with him.
You spoke a little bit about getting these various talents on board.
Yeah. How
do you convince them? I read that Alex was looking for a project for a while, but surely they're used to astronomical fees in Hollywood.
Everyone that we work with has an interest in working in a different medium in games. They don't necessarily do it to make millions of bucks, because despite what everyone thinks, you don't actually make millions of bucks making games unless you're extraordinarily lucky. So for a lot of them, it's more about the people you work with and the freedom you give them creatively and the respect and the boundaries that you have.
Ed Stern, I'm lead writer at Splash Damage. And what didn't work? Was there any like one interaction verb that you had difficulty with, or was there any particular? Was it a particular kind of scene or a particular kind of interaction? Some stuff just falls straight into the engine and it works fine. What was the stuff that just didn't work straight off?
We caught a lot of the stuff early on because when we had the edited scenes, and we spent maybe 5 weeks editing the videos, like not the actual in-game stuff, just the videos that we filmed live. We stuck those in the game. So when the characters got to a point, it just played the video. And just from that, we could tell whether certain scenes weren't going to work. And in general, the scenes that don't work are the ones where you have multiple purposes. You know, Alex was very, very clear, one scene, one purpose. Like, and any time that there was like a couple of things going on in the scene, and they shifted from one conversation to the other, it just didn't work. And sometimes that meant actually going back to the design and removing the source of that double-ended type thing that's going on. But simplicity seemed to work, like just getting it down to its bare bones. The simpler it is, the less trouble, the less you're going to tie yourself into knots.
Hi, I'm Sven. I'm a features writer for Spong. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you feel is the role of story in games on a grand scale, because a lot of Ninja Theory games tend to be a lot of heavily focused on the storyline and the cinematics of the games. And you mentioned in your presentation that Alex likes to kind of break down scenes into like bare essence and stuff like that. Do you think that's a perfect structure for a game, or do you think it works in film as well? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what Alex brought was his film experience into our game. And my thoughts on story is, if it's a story-driven game, then you should follow the rules of storytelling, whether they're visual, oral, or on the written page. So I think Alex fitted quite well into that. If it's not a story-driven game, then you shouldn't force a story on there at all. You know. But if you're gonna, yeah, I mean, I believe passionately that the skills he brought from the film world work in games, despite our skepticism.
You can find out more about further games events via the BAFTA website, Facebook page or Twitter. But for now, please join me in thanking Tameem once again.